Hello, thanks again for joining Rupert Cooks. Today we are doing something that is perfect for summer because it doesn't heat up your kitchen a lot and it's fairly simple to make. So on those hot days when you don't really want to cook a lot, this is really easy to do. The only thing that's a little bit difficult is you do have to marinate the chicken for a few hours in the refrigerator, but the marinade is pretty simple. You can start it, go to work, come back, and be done in half an hour. So with that, let's get to it. Chicken vindaloo. Okay, so here we have a tablespoon of minced ginger, 6 or 7 garlic cloves minced up, and a cup of chopped onion. What we're going to do here is a little bit weird. We're going to put our onion in a bowl and our ginger and our garlic, mix them all up. And about a tablespoon of peanut oil. Peanut oil sort of gives it a better taste. I kind of like it. I always have it on hand. I know many of you may not, but it's kind of one of the better ones to have on hand every now and then, and it works great for Chinese food as well if you're cooking in high heat in a wok. And now what we're going to do is, to avoid heat, we are going to put these in the microwave for about 7-8 minutes, something like that. And what we're trying to do is get the onions a little bit browned in the microwave. So we will pop them in and get right to it. See you in a bit. So our onions and garlic are nicely browned here from the microwave. I went about I think I went 9 minutes total to get here. You don't absolutely have to do this in a microwave. If you wanted to do it in a small frying pan, you could pretty easily. But again, I am doing this in August to minimize the heat input into my house. So what we're going to do after that is we're going to put all of these into the food processor and make our marinade. So what I have here is 1/4 cup white vinegar, 1 teaspoon salt, about 1.5 teaspoons of garam masala. You have to have this. If you do not, there are recipes out there to make it, but really you can just go to any Indian grocery store or order it online and you get a big huge bag of it. Lasts for quite a while. Then 1 teaspoon of paprika. Now, vindaloo is actually thought of as a very hot, spicy dish. I mean, it's spicy because it's got a lot of spices, but in terms of, burning mouth off, vindaloo does not have to be hot. And in actuality, I think when they Americanize Indian cooking, somehow vindaloo has become synonymous in this country with hot. So they just make it very hot. You can make it whatever you want. I like a little bit spicy, so I would go at least 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I went with about 3/4 here. About 1 teaspoon of ground coriander. This is another one. You can get coriander anywhere, but really you want to go to an Indian grocery store to get this. And the reason why is, unless you're doing this a lot, you're not going to plow through a lot of coriander. So you want to get the whole seeds and then grind them up in a dedicated spice grinder. This is a coffee grinder, but you just get a spice grinder or a coffee grinder and just dedicate it for grinding spices. That's what I do. You also get that nice lilting grinder sound in the morning that like wakes everybody up and lets them know that you're slaving away in the kitchen on their dinner, and they should feel appropriate guilt in that. And then finally, 1 teaspoon of cumin and a cup of crushed tomatoes. It almost doesn't matter what format your tomatoes are in, since we're going to be putting these into the food processor. You can also do this in a blender if you want to, or use an immersion blender if you want to, decorate your kitchen. A lot of Indian food involves tomatoes, and if you're going to be doing a lot of it, I actually prefer to have canned tomatoes on hand. So I'll have canned whole, canned diced, For some reason, I got this crushed, and it's kind of more of a puree, but I like having these on hand, and I find that somehow I get more reliable results. Like they're more consistent tomato to tomato or can to can. I hate going to the trouble of making a dish and then you get home from the grocery store and you find out you got lousy tomatoes with no taste. So I kind of like using the cans for that reason. So we're going to put this in the food processor and smash it all up. Oh, also in addition, again, maybe not totally legit, but I like to do it. I'm going to be adding about a quarter teaspoon to a half a teaspoon of liquid smoke. Um, you can use whatever brand you want. I don't think it really matters between mesquite wood and apple wood and birch bark smoke. I don't know. Not a traditional Indian food addition, but I like adding it. You want to be very sparing though, because a little bit of this stuff goes a long way. So I would never go more than a half teaspoon of this, and it gives it a nice kind of very slightly smoky taste that I think really works with this dish. You are not trying to make barbecue. You don't want that. So I will spare you the hideous sound of my vintage 1970s Cuisinart food processor, and we will get to chopping this, and I'll see you back in a little bit. Ah, the noise of it all. So hideous. But we're done with grinding that up. And we have our 1 pound of chicken, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Some people trim these. I don't. You can if you want to. And even though they're sort of deboned, so they're kind of filleted out, just leave them whole for now. And what we're going to do is marinate these in our spicy mixture. And interestingly, if you're worried about not feeling authentic or anything like that, this dish is oddly from the Portuguese. The Portuguese used to sail around and do a little colonizing, we'll do a little trading, get into all sorts of stuff, just like everybody else in Europe seemed to be doing. I mean, I don't know, the Dutch were all over the place. Obviously, the British were in India. But the Portuguese would sail around and they would store meat in barrels with garlic in between the layers and pour a bunch of red wine over it, and that was their preservative method on these, journeys to go where no man had gone before, other than everybody else that already lived there, and then they got there and came up their crazy language. But that's actually where it comes from, and Vindaloo is sort of just a easier pronunciation of the Portuguese term, and the Portuguese term basically means marinated in garlic. The Indians got a hold of this, and they added their own stuff to it, and so Vindaloo is not even really a straight up Indian dish. It's kind of interesting that way. So we're going to have our Portuguese Indian chicken marinating here, and you have to do this for a little while. This is not a 30-minute thing because well, you're trying to simulate a sailing voyage, so I guess you could marinate it for 3 months, but we're not going to do that. Like I said, you could just put this in when you go to work, come back home. You could put it in overnight. I'm just going to go, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours here, and then proceed to cooking it in the Instant Pot. Obviously, I'm going to cover this with some saran wrap and put it in the refrigerator, but I will see you back here when it's time for the Instant Pot funness. All right, so our chicken has been marinating for about 5 hours now. I've got some rice cooking and we're going to do that while the chicken is cooking in the Instant Pot. So what I'm going to do is put the chicken in. I am going to add about a teaspoon of turmeric and around a quarter cup of water because the sauce is a little bit thick and you kind of want a little bit more water going on in here. And I am going to cook it or pressure cook it on high for 6 minutes, then let the steam naturally release for 10 minutes, and then manually release it after that, and then we're done. So just to make sure that everybody's on the same page here, what I mean by let the steam release naturally is you do not hit cancel. After the 6 minutes, it'll shift to warm. Don't do anything, and it'll do a count. And when that count reaches 10 minutes after the 6 minutes cooking time, it's going to be warming, but those 10 minutes, those count as releasing. And then we're going to flip the lever and release the steam. So really, it's pretty quick. So I'm going to get this in, get it cooking, and work on my rice a little bit. So for the rice, what we're going to do is something, this is a little extra step. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. But in this frying pan, I've got a couple of tablespoons of oil. And I'm going to heat it up. And what I'm going to do is I've got here about a half a teaspoon of mustard seeds, half a teaspoon of cumin seeds, and half a teaspoon of fenugreek. The latter part you'll find in any Indian grocery store. You will probably not find it in a regular grocery store, but maybe. And what we're going to do is get this oil very hot and throw these in here, swish them around a little bit, and then that is going to go into the rice. And it is this teeny little extra step that is kind of, well, sort of essential in Indian cooking, but it is what gives the rice that you get in an Indian restaurant that taste that you just never seem to be able to duplicate at home. The choice of what you put in here is really up to you. But mustard seeds, the little black BB things, are very common and kind of important here. The cumin, do that to taste. The fenugreek, as you like it. You could even do it with just the mustard seeds. I think you can get those at a regular grocery store, but a lot of times they're in those Spice Island bottles that cost a fortune. You can go to an Indian grocery store and get them quite a bit cheaper. What you're looking for when you throw the spices in is the mustard seeds, as you saw, were black. I really hate this light on this stove. It really makes everything look weird. But the mustard seeds are kind of black, and you want them to turn fairly instantly a light gray color. You're going to want a lid for this. And the reason why is these spices tend to pop up. Okay, you see how that oil is smoking? That's right about where we're going to want it there. So there's not going to be that much to see here because I'm going to throw these things in. And they will probably go flying around a little bit, so that I'm going to put the lid down right on top of it. Okay, that's pretty good. That's getting smoky. So I'm going to throw these things in. Swish it around a little bit, lid on. And the second you do that and you start smelling it, you're going to be like, oh, all right, so now we're done. Boom. All right, so our cooking has just stopped, and now we're at 1 minute of the cool down time. We're going to go until this reaches 10. In the meantime, I have our rice here, which it's just basmati rice with some turmeric and raisins put in it that I did in the rice cooker. If you're really doing Indian rice, you put a little bit of oil in it, and that helps keep it from sticking together as much. I don't really like to do it when I'm doing a tarka because it kind of feels like the rice gets too oily to me. So here we go. I've got the sort of seasoned oil from putting the burning hot spices in it. Well, these aren't hot. The oil is hot. And we're just going to mix that around. And it really does totally change the characteristic of the rice. You have a totally different thing if you do this. It's worth the effort, and it doesn't take much, really. Cleaning out the pan takes longer than doing it. So there you go. Got some nice rice there. Okay, so we're going to wait. Now we're up to 2 minutes. When that gets up to 10, we're done. I'm going to take the chicken out and we're going to serve up. Okay, and here we are all served up. You can see how nice that sauce looks on the chicken. I just basically cut up the chicken and then spooned the sauce out on top of it. This is a fantastic dish that really does not take a lot of time and certainly doesn't heat up your kitchen. Thanks again for joining us here on Rupert Cooks. Please like and subscribe. You can see the remnants of what was left. If you want to double this recipe, you really can. There's nothing wrong with that. I just did a pound because that's sort of the minimum you want to go, and I would say it would serve two people, 3 people, but you would need some sort of side dish going on with it. I will probably cover one in the next episode that would go great with this. I didn't think you wanted to see me chopping up chicken. I think you know how to do that. But at any rate, I appreciate you watching, and please come back again, and please, once again, like and subscribe. It really helps out and makes me feel all happy when you do. Thank you. I'll see you on the next one.